was in line at the supermarket, with my 6-year-old son clinging to my leg, when my cell phone vibrated. It was a message from him. After months of not giving a penny, after ignoring all my calls, he had the nerve to send that. "You don't take good care of our son. You're a bad mother." My hand trembled. Not from fear. From pure rage. I looked at my shopping cart. Rice, beans, chicken, milk, nothing else. I had calculated every penny to make ends meet. My son was in his clean school uniform, with his backpack on his back, well-fed, and up-to-date on his vaccinations. And this man, who owed 10,000 reais in overdue child support, had the audacity to call me a bad mother. I took a deep breath. I wasn't going to cry there, in front of everyone. I wasn't going to give him that satisfaction, even though he was far away. I paid for the groceries, left the market holding my son's hand tightly, and when I got home, I sat on the sofa and reread the message about 5 times. Each word hurt like a slap in the face. 'Cause I knew he knew. He knew I was killing myself alone. He knew that while he was posting pictures of barbecues with friends, I was cutting my own lunch to make sure my son ate twice a day. But right there, in that moment, something changed inside me. I wasn't going to lower my head anymore. I wasn't going to swallow humiliation in silence anymore. He wanted to call me a bad mother. Then I was going to answer. And I was going to answer in a way he would never forget. I picked up my phone again, and with my fingers still trembling with anger, I started typing. It wasn't a rant. It was a message. A message that was worth all the months he disappeared, all the nights I spent awake wondering how I was going to pay the electricity bill. I finished writing, reread it, and pressed send. In the following minutes, he didn't respond at all. Absolute silence. And for the first time in a long time, I felt I had recovered a piece of my dignity. 'Cause the truth hurts. And when the truth comes from the mouth of someone who carries the weight alone, it silences any cowardice. That day, I understood that being a single mother wasn't just about surviving. It was about not letting anyone walk all over me while I did the work that should have been done by 2 people. And what I wrote in that message changed everything between us. Changed what he said. It changed what he didn't say. And most importantly, it changed what I was willing to hear. If you're still listening to me, it's because you know what it's like to hear something like this and feel your blood boil. If you've been through something similar, or know a mother who lives this struggle every day like this video. Because single mother stories matter. And they need to be seen, they need to be heard, they need to be respected. Comment below if you've ever been called something you didn't deserve while holding everything together alone. Sometimes, knowing that we're not alone already lightens the load. After I sent that message, I stared at the bedroom ceiling for hours. My son was already asleep, and I was there lying down, my heart still racing. The anger had passed, but in its place came a strange feeling, a mix of relief and fear. Fear that he would show up wanting a fight. Fear that he would use that against me somehow. But deep down I knew I had done the right thing. Because keeping that inside was slowly killing me. In the following days, I started gathering everything. All the evidence I had. Screenshots of conversations where I asked for money for medicine and he said he didn't have any at the moment. Court deposit slips showing that he hadn't paid child support for over a year. Receipts for everything I bought for our son. Clothes, school supplies, doctor's appointments, everything. I put it all in a folder. And while I was organizing it, one thing became very clear to me. He had never done this calculation. The real calculation of how much it costs to raise a child alone. He thought alimony was just a number on paper. But alimony isn't just money. It's the diapers that run out in the middle of the night and you have to rush to the 24-hour supermarket. It's the fever medicine that costs 40 reais and you take it out of your lunch money. It's the overdue school tuition that makes you cry at the office begging for more time. It's the sneakers that are already too tight but you postpone buying them because the rent is due first. He never did that calculation. And he never would have because he wasn't there. I, on the other hand, did this calculation every single day. Mentally before going to sleep, in the middle of the night when I woke up startled thinking I'd forgotten to pay something. I knew by heart how many days were left until the money arrived. I knew how much was left after paying everything. And most of the time there was nothing left. Just exhaustion. Just the certainty that the following month would be the same struggle, or worse. That's when I decided. I wasn't just going to reply to his message angrily. I was going to show him in black and white what it meant to be a bad mother who does everything alone while the father disappears. I grabbed my old notebook, the one where I wrote down the bills, and started adding them up. Every doctor's appointment, every diaper, every bag of rice, every uniform, every electricity bill that kept increasing because my son needed light to study at night, came to a number that scared me. A number he would never believe I spent. But it was real. It was my life. It was the weight I carried alone while he posted smiling photos. And you know what hurt the most? It wasn't even the amount. It was realizing that, all this time, I had believed that if I did everything right, if I didn't complain too much, if I didn't demand too much, maybe he would change. Maybe he would wake up one day and decide to be a real father. But that night, looking at my notes, I understood that he wasn't going to change. Because for him, that wasn't the problem. The problem was always me, demanding, asking, begging. I put the notebook away, lay down again, and this time I managed to sleep. Because for the first time, I wasn't waiting for him to change anymore. I was waiting for myself to act. It took me 3 days to muster the courage to send what I had written. It wasn't just anger poured into the text. It was the raw, organized truth, leaving no room for him to say I was exaggerating or being dramatic. I reread it about 10 times before pressing the button. And when I finally sent it, my heart raced as if I had jumped off a cliff. The message was direct. I started by reminding him that he hadn't paid child support for over a year. That the debt was already over 10,000 reais. That while he was calling me a bad mother, I was paying for everything that was both of our responsibilities on my own. Then I went further. I listed everything. Every penny. The diapers he never bought. The milk that was always missing and I had to chase after. The pediatrician appointment when our son had pneumonia and I had to borrow money from my sister because he said he couldn't help. The school supplies I paid for in 3 installments on my credit card. The simple birthday party I threw at home, with a cake I baked myself in the middle of the night, because I wasn't going to let my son go without celebrating just because his father disappeared. And in the end, I wrote the part one knew would hurt him. Not because he truly felt guilty, but because it directly attacked his ego. I said, "You called me a bad mother. But who is a bad mother? The one who wakes up every day to make breakfast, take them to school, help with homework, make dinner, give them a bath, put them to bed, and still work like crazy to pay the bills alone? Or the one who disappears, doesn't pay what she owes, doesn't ask if her child is okay, but thinks she has the right to judge me from afar?" I finished by saying that if he wanted to continue this conversation, he should do it through his lawyer. Because I wasn't going to accept any more insults from someone who wasn't present. I pressed send and dropped my phone as if it were on fire. I went to make lunch, trembling. My son was playing in the living room, oblivious to everything. Happy the way a child should be. And I thought, he can't know about this now. He can't grow up feeling this heavy fighting. But at the same time, one day he would understand. One day he would ask. And I wanted to be sure that when that day came, I had done everything that was right, everything that was fair without bowing my head to anyone. My phone vibrated. It was him. I opened the message with a knot in my stomach. And you know what he said? Nothing. Absolutely nothing I expected. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge the debt. He didn't recognize anything. He just tried to defend himself with those same old empty excuses. That he was broke, that his life was hard too, that I exaggerated things, that he would pay when he could. The same old story. But this time something was different. He didn't insult me back. He didn't call me crazy. He didn't throw other things in my face. He just stayed on the defensive. And I realized something. He had run out of arguments. Because lies don't hold up the truth. And the truth I threw in his face was too heavy for him to pretend it didn't exist. I didn't reply right away. I left him hanging. Because I didn't owe him anything anymore. Not an explanation, not attention, not even space in my head. What I had to say, I had already said. And the rest would be resolved in another way. A way he wouldn't be able to ignore anymore. A week had passed since that exchange of messages, and he still hadn't paid anything. I knew it would be like this, but a part of me still had a silly hope that he would feel ashamed, even just a little, and deposit at least part of what he owed. But no. Nothing. Total silence. And meanwhile the electricity bill was due. The rent was overdue. And my son needed medicine for his ear, which was inflamed again. I remember that day I rushed out of work, picked him up from school, and went straight to the pharmacy. When the woman told me the price, my body froze. 85 reais. I had 70 in my pocket. That was all I had left from the whole week. I asked her to hold it, said I'd be back, and left with my son asking me, "Mom, aren't I going to take my medicine today?" The lump in my throat was so strong that I could barely answer. I just said, "Yes, you will, honey. Mommy just needs to take care of something." Called my sister. She didn't answer. I texted a friend. She said she was also struggling. I thought about asking my boss for an advance on my salary, but I had already done that last month and I was embarrassed to ask again. I sat on a park bench with my son in my lap and simply froze. I couldn't think. I just kept repeating in my head, "How am I going to solve this? How am I going to solve this?" My son rested his little head on my shoulder and whispered, "Mom, my ear hurts so much." And right there, in that second, I felt like I was going to explode. Not from anger, from helplessness, from exhaustion, from a sadness so deep it felt like my chest was going to crack. I was doing everything right. I worked, I took care of him, I didn't spend money on nonsense, I managed. But it wasn't enough. And the worst part, his father, who owed 10,000 reais, was probably at home, relaxed, not losing sleep, not feeling this agony I was feeling. I took a deep breath. I dried my tears before my son saw. And I made a decision. I went back to the pharmacy, explained the situation, and the woman, with a look I'll never forget, a look of understanding, told me, "Take the medicine. You pay me the rest next week." I almost burst into tears right there. I thanked her about 5 times, took the box and left, holding my son's hand tightly. On the way home, while he was jumping up and down beside me, already more cheerful because he knew things were going to get better, I thought, until when? Until when will I have to beg, ask for favors, be embarrassed, while his father lives as if he doesn't have a son in the world? And it was at that moment that I decided I wasn't going to wait for him to be ashamed anymore. I wasn't going to wait for him to do the right thing anymore. I was going to pursue my rights, my son's rights, in the way the law allowed. And if he thought he could ignore me forever, he was very wrong. That night, after giving my son his medicine, I sat on the edge of his bed and watched him sleep. His little face was peaceful, his breathing calmer, and there I was, my heart still heavy, but at the same time feeling a strange relief. I gently ran my hand through his hair and thought about everything we had been through together. All the times I thought I wouldn't be able to cope, and yet I did. All the times the money ran out, and yet we didn't go hungry. All the times I cried in secret, but smiled in front of him. In the morning, I woke up with him nudging me. "Mom, my ear feels better." And when he said that, with that toothless grin, his eyes shining, something inside me lit up again. It was as if all the sleepless nights, all the overdue bills, all the humiliation I had endured, it all made sense in that second. 'Cause he was okay. He was happy. And that was because of me, not his father. Me. I made coffee, sat him down at the little kitchen table, and while he ate the bread and butter I had saved, he looked at me and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to work and buy everything for you. You won't have to be sad anymore." My heart broke and then mended itself at the same time. I held his little hand and said, "You don't need to worry about that, sweetheart. You just need to be a child. Mommy will take care of the rest." But that phrase of his kept echoing in my head all day. He had noticed, even though I tried to hide it. He knew things were difficult. And the fact that he, at only 6 years old, already wanted to help me, made me realize one thing. I couldn't let him grow up carrying this weight. He didn't have to be my savior. He had to be a child. He had to play, dream, be happy. And for that to happen, I needed to resolve things once and for all. That day at work, I did everything on autopilot. My mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about what I was going to do, how I was going to do it, and where I was going to find the strength to start another battle. This time not just an emotional one, but a fun one too. But every time exhaustion hit, I remembered his smile that morning. The way he hugged me before I left for work. The "I love you, Mom," he shouted from the window as I was leaving. And it was there, in the middle of my shift, putting away dishes in the kitchen of the restaurant where I worked, that I understood something. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for him. For his future. So that he wouldn't grow up thinking that a father can disappear, that a man can abandon you, that responsibility is optional. I was fighting to show him that we don't accept crumbs, that we don't lower our heads, and that a mother's love isn't just affection, it's also justice. I left work that day with a plan in my head. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't just feel tired, felt ready. The next day, I woke up earlier than usual. My son was still sleeping, and I took advantage of the silence to do what I had been putting off for months. Seek real help. Not help from a friend, not advice from someone who had been through it. Legitimate help. I needed someone who knew what to do with a man who owed me 10,000 reais and thought he could continue disappearing, living his life as if he didn't have a child in the world. I called the public defender's office as soon as it opened. The woman on the phone was super attentive, wrote down my name, explained that I needed to schedule an appointment, and gave me the documents I had to bring. I hung up and looked at the calendar. The appointment was in 2 weeks. 2 weeks that seemed like an eternity, but at the same time it was the first time I felt like I was moving forward, not just surviving. In the following days, I organized everything. I gathered all the receipts I had saved. Screenshots of conversations. Receipts. Bank statements showing that I paid for everything myself. Even notes from my notebook, where I listed every penny spent on my son. When I put everything in a folder, I realized how heavy it all was. Not just physically. It was the weight of an entire year of neglect, of broken promises, of ignored messages. But it was also proof. Proof that I wasn't making anything up. That I wasn't exaggerating. It was all real. The day of the appointment arrived. I took my son with me because I had no one to leave him with. He sat quietly beside me, drawing on a piece of paper the receptionist gave him, while I talked to the lawyer. I explained everything, from the beginning. She listened attentively, looked at the documents, and when she finished reading, she looked me in the eyes and said, "You have a strong case. We're going to file for child support enforcement. He'll have to pay, and if he doesn't, he could be arrested." Hearing that was like a weight being lifted from my chest. Not because I wanted to see him in jail. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted justice. I just wanted him to take responsibility for what was his. To understand that having a child isn't optional. That child support isn't a favor. It's an obligation. And that while I was killing myself alone, he couldn't simply pretend that none of this existed. I left there with the signed papers, feeling like something was finally going to change. On the way home, my son asked, "Mom, what were you doing there?" I took a deep breath and said, "Mom went to sort something out, so we can be okay." He smiled and said, "Okay, Mom." And he held my hand tighter. That night when I put him to bed, I sat on the sofa and, for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry from despair. I didn't cry from exhaustion. I breathed a sigh of relief. 'Cause I had done something. I had broken free from the paralysis. And even if the result was still a long way off, I knew I wasn't going to stay still anymore, waiting for him to feel sorry for me, waiting for him to change. I had put the law on my side. And that was already a victory. A month has passed since I filed the lawsuit. And while I waited for some response from the court, life went on. Work, my son's school, bills, routine. But one night I found myself standing in front of the bathroom mirror, after putting him to bed, and I almost didn't recognize myself. I had deep dark circles under my eyes. My hair was tied up in a messy bun that had been there for days. I was wearing old house clothes. And my expression on my face looked like someone much older than I actually was. I was 28 years old. 28. But when I looked in the mirror, I felt like I was 50. It wasn't just physical exhaustion. It was something else. It was the feeling that I had ceased to exist as a woman. I was just a mother, just a worker, just the person who solved problems, who held things together, who couldn't falter. But what about me? When was the last time someone asked how I was? When was the last time I went out, laughed for real, felt beautiful, desired, alive? I sat on the edge of the bed and let that thought wash over me. It had been over a year since I'd gone anywhere other than work, the supermarket, or school. It had been over a year since I'd bought clothes for myself. It had been over a year since I'd had a moment to myself, without worries, without bills to pay, without a child to take care of. And the worst part, it had been over a year since anyone had touched me, since anyone had looked at me as a woman. I had become invisible, except to my son who saw me as a superhero. But to myself, I had vanished. And then came the guilt. That heavy guilt of thinking those things, of wanting some time for myself, of missing being desired, of wanting a life beyond diapers, bills, and sacrifice. Because single mothers can't complain, right? Single mothers have to be strong all the time. You have to cope. You can't feel lonely. You can't just want to be a woman without all the weight on your shoulders. But I felt it. And I was ashamed to feel it. That night, I lay staring at the ceiling and let the tears fall. It wasn't a cry of despair. It was a cry of emotional exhaustion, of being worn down by pretending everything was all right, of realizing that while I dedicated myself entirely to my son, who was my priority and my love, I had completely forgotten about myself, about what I liked, about what I dreamed of, about who I was beyond being a mother. The next day I made a small decision, but one that felt huge to me. I took some of the money I had left over and bought a lipstick. A red lipstick. It wasn't anything extraordinary. But when I put it on in front of the mirror before leaving for work, I felt different. I felt a little more like myself. A little more like a woman. And I realized I needed that. I needed to remind myself that I still existed. That I wasn't just my son's mother. That I also had the right to feel good, to take care of myself, to look in the mirror and like what I saw. It would still take time for me to organize my life in a way that left room for me. But that day with that red lipstick I took the first step. And that was something. It was on a Tuesday in the middle of the workday that something happened that changed my perspective. I was cleaning the restaurant tables, tired as always, when a customer sat down and started talking to me. She was older, probably around 50, and had a calm demeanor, the kind of person you sense has lived a lot. We exchanged a few words, and out of nowhere she asked, "Do you have children?" I replied that yes, I had a 6-year-old son. She smiled and said, "I imagine it's tough." I just nodded. And then she said something that stuck in my mind for the rest of the day. "You know, I was a single mother too. And I spent years thinking my only obligation was to survive. But surviving isn't living." When I understood that, everything changed. I went home thinking about that phrase. Surviving isn't living. I was just surviving. I'd wake up, work, take care of my son, sleep, and start over. Had no plan. No goals. I had nothing beyond making it to the end of the month without owing anything. And even when I managed that, I didn't feel like I'd won. Just a temporary sense of relief. Because the following month it would all be the same again. That night, after putting my son to bed, I sat down with an old notebook and started writing. It wasn't just a list of bills anymore. It was something else. I started writing down what I wanted. What I dreamed of. Not just for my son, but for myself too. I wanted a better job. I wanted to earn more. I wanted to have some savings, even a small amount, so I wouldn't struggle every time something unexpected came up. I wanted my son to go to a good school. I wanted our own house without having to pay rent. I wanted to be able to buy clothes for myself without guilt. I wanted to travel, even if only once, to the beach with him. I wanted to feel alive again. I looked at the list and thought, it seems impossible. But then I remembered everything I had already accomplished. I had left an abusive relationship. I had raised my son alone until then. I had managed to keep us afloat even without anyone's help. I had filed a lawsuit against his father. If I achieved all this in survival mode, imagine what I could do if I started planning for real. I started slowly. I looked for a job that paid better. I asked an acquaintance about a free professional qualification course she had taken. I opened an account at a credit union and started saving 10 reais a week. It wasn't much, but it was a start. It was the difference between just surviving and starting to build something. And you know what else changed? My attitude. I stopped accepting just anything. I stopped feeling grateful for crumbs. I stopped thinking I had to be happy just because I was able to pay the bills. I deserved more. My son deserved more. And I was going to go after it. Not just any way. With organization. With planning. With the same strength I used to survive, but this time directed towards growth. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just reacting. I was acting. And that made all the difference. 2 months after I filed the lawsuit, he showed up. Not physically, but on my cell phone. It was a Friday night. I had just gotten home from work, and my son was watching cartoons in the living room. The phone vibrated. It was him. My heart raced instantly, but it wasn't fear. It was anger mixed with disgust. Because I knew he wasn't contacting me to ask about his son. He was contacting me because he had received a court summons. The message started with a fake hi, as if nothing had happened. As if he hadn't disappeared for months. As if he didn't owe 10,000 reais. And then he blurted out, "You didn't need to do this. We could have resolved this another way." I read that and almost threw my phone against the wall. Could have resolved it another way. What other way? I had asked, begged, cried, demanded. And he had ignored me. He had called me a bad mother. And now, just because the justice system knocked on his door, he came with this talk about how we could have talked. I didn't reply right away. I went to the kitchen, took a deep breath, drank a glass of water, and went back to the bedroom. I reread the message. And then more came. Him saying he was having a hard time. That I didn't understand his side. That he couldn't afford to pay. That I was being unfair. Unfair. Me, who held everything together alone, who didn't sleep properly, who worked like crazy, who gave up everything to ensure our son didn't go hungry. I was the one who was unfair. He continued. If you drop the lawsuit, I promise I'll start helping. Promise. That word again. The same word he used when he disappeared the first time. The same word that meant nothing coming from him. And the worst part. He didn't ask about his son. Not once. Didn't ask if he was okay, if he was growing up, if he needed anything. He just wanted to get rid of the lawsuit. He just wanted me to back down. To give up. As if I were weak. As if I would change my mind. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I wasn't the one who believed in empty promises anymore. I wasn't the one who was afraid of confrontation anymore. It had changed. And he was going to find that out the hard way. I started typing the reply. My fingers trembled, but not from fear. From determination. I wrote, "You had a whole year to help. You had hundreds of messages from me asking. You had your son going through hardship while you pretended he didn't exist. You're not going to manipulate me again. The process continues. And if you really want to do something for your son, pay what you owe. Because I've had enough talk. Now it's action or consequences." I sent it and blocked him. I wasn't going to give him a chance to respond. I wasn't going to let him get inside my head again. 'Cause I knew his game. He was going to try to convince me, play the victim, promise me the moon and the stars, and in the end do nothing. But this time I wasn't alone. I had the law on my side. And he was going to have to answer for it. That night I had trouble sleeping. Not because I felt guilty, but because I knew the war wasn't over yet. He was going to try other things. I was going to badmouth myself to my family. I was going to make up excuses. I was going to play the victim. But I was ready. Because the truth was on my side. And a lie, no matter how well told, doesn't hold the truth forever. In the following days, his family started contacting me. First it was his mother, sending messages saying I was being too harsh, that he was sorry, that family matters aren't resolved in court. Then it was his sister with the same story. Everyone wanted me to back down. Everyone wanted to make me feel guilty for demanding what was rightfully my son's. Nobody had contacted me when I was going through hardship. Nobody had asked if we needed help. But now, when responsibility knocked on their door, everyone had an opinion. I could have exploded. I could have cursed everyone out. But I chose something else. I chose not to respond. Because I've learned that some people will never understand what it's like to raise a child alone. Some people will always find excuses for their child, their sibling, their relative, even when they're wrong. And wasting my energy trying to convince these people that I was right wouldn't change anything. It would only wear me down more. But there was one thing that really worried me. My son started asking questions. Mom, why doesn't my dad come to see me? Mom, doesn't my dad like me? And each of those questions was like a stab in the chest. Because I knew that one day this moment would come. But knowing didn't prepare me for the pain of seeing my son, with those innocent eyes, wanting to understand why his father wasn't there. I sat with him one Sunday afternoon. We were on the sofa and he was drawing. I took a deep breath and said, "Honey, your father loves you in the only way he knows how. But sometimes adults make choices that we don't understand. What I want you to know is that you are loved, very loved, by your mother who is here with you every day. And that will never change." He looked at me, thought for a moment and asked, "But will he come back?" I held his hand and told him the truth. "I don't know, my love. But what I do know is that you will always have your mother. Always." I saw his little face processing all of that. And it hurt a lot, because I wanted to protect him from that pain. I wanted him to have a present father, a father who called, who asked, who showed up. But I couldn't control that. What I could control was what I did. And I had decided that I wasn't going to poison my son. I wasn't going to speak ill of his father. I wasn't going to put anger in his heart. Because anger doesn't build anything, only destroys. But at the same time, I wasn't going to lie. I wasn't going to make up excuses for him. I wasn't going to pretend his father was a hero when he wasn't. I was going to tell the truth, in a way that a 6-year-old can understand. And when he grew up, he would draw his own conclusions. He would see who stayed, who fought, who never gave up. That night, after putting him to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen and cried. I cried for his pain, for the innocence he was going to lose too soon, for the question I knew he would ask again and again and again until he understood. But I also cried with relief, because even with all of that he was happy. He smiled. He played. He had love. And that was because of me. And nobody, not his father, not his family, nobody was going to take that away from us. I had chosen to fight for my son's rights in court. But more than that, I had chosen to protect his peace. And that was worth more than any amount of money. 3 months after filing the lawsuit, I received a call from the public defender. My heart raced when I saw her number on the screen. I answered trembling. She was direct. He was summoned and didn't respond. Now he has 2 options: pay the debt or face criminal charges. The child support enforcement proceedings are underway, and if he continues to ignore them, an arrest warrant could be issued. I hung up the phone and stood there in the middle of the room. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel revenge. Felt justice. Finally, after so long being ignored, humiliated, called a bad mother, justice was on my side. And he couldn't run away anymore. He couldn't pretend he didn't have a son anymore. He couldn't blame me anymore. Reality had knocked on his door. And this time there was no excuse that could hold him back. The next day he texted me from a new number because I had blocked the old one. And the message was different from all the others. There was no more arrogance. No more accusations. He wrote, "I need to talk to you, please. It's about the lawsuit." I read it and took a deep breath. Part of me wanted to ignore it, as he had ignored me so many times. But the other part knew that if I wanted this to truly end, I needed to hear what he had to say. Not for him, for me. To close this cycle once and for all. I replied, "Go ahead. But be quick." He took a few minutes and then sent an audio message. I almost couldn't believe his audacity, but I pressed play. His voice was different, lower, without his usual arrogance. He said he couldn't afford to pay the $10,000 all at once, that he was afraid of being arrested, that he wanted to make a deal, that he would start paying the alimony every month on time, if I agreed to pay the debt in installments. I listened until the end. And then, with a calmness I didn't know I had, I recorded my response. I spoke looking at the screen as if I were looking into his eyes. Do you know what I wanted when all this started? I wanted you to be a father, not just in name but in truth. I wanted you to ask about your son, for you to show up, for you to help without me having to beg. But you did none of that. You disappeared. You insulted me. You called me a bad mother while I held everything together alone. Now you're scared. Now you want to talk. Just because the court forced you to. I took a breath and continued. I accept the agreement, but not for you, for my son. 'Cause he needs this money. Because he deserves for his father to take responsibility, even if he's forced to. But I'm going to make one thing very clear. You're not coming back into our lives just because you're going to pay child support. You have no place here anymore. If one day you want to be a real father, you'll have to prove it. Not with words, with actions. And until then, you stay away. We don't need someone who only shows up when the law is pressing. I sent it. And after sending it, I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders. 'Cause I had said everything. Without yelling. Without crying. Without losing my temper. I had put him in his place. And I had made it clear that I was no longer that woman who accepted crumbs. That woman who was afraid. That woman who thought she needed him for something. I didn't need him. I never had. I only wanted what was fair. And finally I had gotten it. He didn't respond anymore. And days later, the lawyer called me saying that he had accepted the agreement. He was going to pay the debt in installments and resume the monthly alimony payments. Everything registered, everything official. No more excuses. No more running away. And if he was late again, the justice system already knew what to do. That night, as I put my son to bed, I looked at him and thought, I did this for you, and I would do it 1,000 times more. Because you deserve a mother who doesn't back down, who fights, who doesn't give up. And that's what I am. 6 months have passed since all this began. 6 months since that message where he called me a bad mother. 6 months since I decided I wasn't going to accept being trampled on anymore. And a lot has changed. He's paying child support. Not every month exactly, but he's paying. The debt is being paid off little by little. And for the first time in years I have some money saved. It's not much, but it's mine. It's security. It's the certainty that if something unexpected happens, I won't have to beg anyone for help. My son has grown, not only in height but in understanding. He still asks about his father sometimes, but I realize he's learning to cope with his absence. And most importantly, he knows he is loved. He knows he has a mother who would do anything for him, who will never abandon him, who will always be there in good times and bad. And that, I'm sure, is worth more than anything. These days, I sat down to write a letter. Not to him, the father of my son. Not to anyone in the family. I wrote to myself. To that woman who was broken, who thought she wouldn't make it, who cried in secret thinking she was weak. I wrote, you did it. When you thought you were going to fall apart, you held on. When they called you crazy, exaggerated, vengeful, you didn't back down. You fought. And it wasn't easy. There were nights you went to sleep not knowing if you'd have money for food the next day. There were moments you wanted to give up. When you felt you weren't strong enough. But you were. And you proved it. Not to him. Not to anyone. To yourself. And to your son, who one day will understand the magnitude of what you did. I kept the letter in a drawer. And whenever fatigue sets in, whenever doubt creeps in, I'll reread it. Because we quickly forget how far we've come. We become so focused on what's still missing that we forget to look back and see all that we've already achieved. And I've achieved a lot. I've earned respect. I've earned dignity. I've earned peace. Today, when I look in the mirror, I recognize myself again. I'm no longer just the exhausted, invisible mother who carries everything alone. I am the woman who faced challenges, who wasn't afraid to seek justice, who didn't accept crumbs, who taught her son without saying a word what it means to have backbone, what it means not to bow your head, what it means to fight for what is right, even when everyone is against you. And if you've listened to me this far, if this story touched you in any way, I want you to know one thing. You're not alone. There are thousands of single mothers out there, holding everything together, crying in secret, thinking they won't be able to cope. But they will. Because we are stronger than we imagine. We just need to believe in that. And act. So if you identified with this story, if you've been through something similar or know someone who is going through it like this video, share it with another mother who needs to hear this. Comment below with your story, your pain, your victory. Because when we talk, when we share, we heal. Not only ourselves, but other women too. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe. Because I'm going to continue telling real stories, stories that hurt, but that also heal. Stories of women who didn't give up. Just like me. Just like you. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We get tired. We cry. But we don't give up. And that's what makes us warriors. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to keep going even with it.